1,000. Annie?
We got, I think, 300, 400?
Okay, over the course of what? So
Since
how'd you guys
November,
get
since
cars,
October.
then? How did you guys...
So we sold all of our vehicles.
Yeah, so how
and then bought new ones.
Then? So if we've been through this cycle so many times, why are we buying new cars? Were they in cash?
No.
Why were we buying new cars when...
Okay,
hey,
used cars.
remember when we just had the conversation? I had to supplement the whole house because husband, we didn't rely on his income, but we just got new cars, but we can only rely on one income and moved across the country because also one of the people we're with is homeless. We're getting new cars?
Used cars, not brand new, but we needed a car so he could go to work.
You had cars, you sold your cars. Costs?
He couldn't get to work with those.
Any of the cars? Any of the cars?
No.
A singular one of his cars.
The only car that we had.
I want to see him driving that forklift on the side of the road then.
It's not a drivable forklift, it's a pushable forklift. It's manual.
Oh my gosh. Okay. How much are these cars?
So my car, my SUV, I think we paid $24,000 for it.
And the other?
He got a truck to help with the move, with the last 2 moves.
If it's for a move, then rent a truck. What did we buy a truck to help with a move?
Well, we also have, my dad has a boat, so...
His boat, sell his boat. I don't give a... He's homeless. He can sell a boat if he's homeless. I'm gonna lose sympathy if we have an asset that we can sell for thousands of dollars.
It's not worth thousands of dollars.
It's not worth at least thousands?
No.
It's worth 1,000? Then we're
Maybe.
not buying a truck to haul it.
It's a happy place for us. Growing up in the Bay Area, I was always on the water. It's not gonna sink.
Okay, they could probably get a couple thousand at least, right? What is it? What is it?
I think it's like an 89 jet boat.
Buddy, I don't know, but we're getting a truck for it? I don't care. Again, put it on a dock here.
Well, my husband got the truck, and that was $28,000.
Oh, for sake. The guy who didn't have a job, that we're relying only on your income. By the way, 3-year-old.
He has a job.
Now, but you guys were relying just on your income.
We bought the truck after he had a job.
Okay, what did you say his hourly was?
$19.25.
Okay, and we're getting a $30,000 truck that he doesn't need? Yeah, for a move.
Well, and other things.
Join a boat club here. You get better boats anyway, and it's probably cheaper.
There's boat clubs?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
So you can access to a bunch of boats.
It's something to look into, but that sounds like another day.
It's not a debt. It's a monthly payment, but it would have saved you from a $30,000 excuse.
Well, we also have trailers that we tow around and do site.
Stop.
That's extra income.
Extra income? How long until that extra income equals $30,000 plus the interest that accrued on the truck? Exactly. You're not doing the full math behind it. You're just justifying, if I can go make an extra $5, I can go spend $30,000. Like, no. Look where you are. Is what you're doing working? Is what you're doing working?
Not
There's your job, obviously. Like, that's how that works. Like, if that was a savvy business venture and everything you're doing is okay, you wouldn't be on this show.
My husband works extremely hard.
Cool, congratulations. You guys are completely... Cool, and you can get things that are nice when you are disciplined and you pay off the debt that you got.
And that's why I'm here. It's a discipline.
Can you ban that phrase from here? Like, that's why you're here? What?
Because I have paid off things before. I've watched David Ramsey for a while. I know the snowball method. I've been working on that.
You watched who?
David Ramsey.
David Ramsey?
Yeah. And that's how I got some of the debt paid off before.
David Ramsey. David, I hope you're watching this.
But I've watched, like, the snowball method and stuff like that, had things paid off before, and then life happens, debt cycles happen, and we...
Life. He works hard. We went on something nice. That's what happened. Life happens. Excuses happen.
Excuses do happen, but it's part of life.
Excuses happened. Yeah, and we can make excuses on some things, but I can have an excuse to go have a piece of chocolate out there, but it has a little less consequences than you going $80,000 in bad debt. This is a different level. This is a different level. Excuses happen? What do you mean? Okay, excuses happen. Congratulations. Go.
They're justified excuses.
Goodbye.
I'm here to get this fixed.
No. It's not that. I'm not kicking you off. But what I'm saying is, excuses happen. Cool. Keep that mindset. Like, we don't need to have a conversation. Keep that mindset. If that's the life you want to live, if that's the life you want to live that life, then why are you saying it? Because you just said it's justified. You guys are house shopping now?
We are.
What are you doing?
So
What in the world are you doing?
we bought our house.
David Ramsey would not agree.
So we bought our house and never saw it. We saw it an hour before we signed our closing papers.
So what's the current state?
Not good. We've done a lot of remodeling and a lot of repairs. That's where some of the debt came into place too.
I don't usually like to start with real estate because it's boring, but let me just get a quick thing on it.
Like the Home Depot cards, that's repairing the house.
Oh, repairing? Why? Well, how was it?
Bad.
But
I will never use that inspector
yeah,
again.
unseen, I get it, but why didn't you? Well, I did multiple inspections, why didn't you? This is such a huge purchase. Okay, we're cutting the address from the video, but what's the address? What was the purchase price of the house?
$144.
Okay. How much did you put down?
I think it was like 10,000. I think it was like 5,000 for the down payment, and then like another 5,000 in additional cost.
You know, it's only worth $144,000 right now. Says Zillow, which usually overestimates houses.
I just got my appraisal papers came in, and they said
Appraisal through who?
through the county, Lamar County Appraisal District.
No, that's his taxes,
and then,
right? Are you talking about your tax appraisal?
Maybe.
Nah. That's going to be a different kind of appraisal than you're going to get when it comes to
the lender also did an appraisal.
Okay,
like a virtual appraisal on it.
Okay, that also doesn't count. There's going to be an official appraisal that happens. All right, like the buyer's likely going to request that.
Yes.
And the bank if they're taking out any kind of loan. So they will contract an official appraiser to do it. And it's not a virtual thing. It's not perfect, but whatever. What did you hear?
$194.
I highly doubt that.
Well, so when we bought the house, everything was original from 1981.
The internal renovations of houses aren't doing as much these days anymore. It can help a little, but it's really the land. The land...
It's on a third of an acre.
Well, I know, but I'm seeing the values of it.
That's part of the Tractor Supply bill, too.
Well, I hope so. I hope it's worth that. It sounds excited. You sound excitable about it, honestly. Yes. And here's the reality. We're in a buyer's market, not a seller's market. You do not have to say in this. Like, you can market there. That likely being overvalued is actually going to hurt you worse because you're going to get less people making offers, meaning you're going to be on the market longer, meaning psychologically people start seeing something wrong with the house and they see it being on the market for like more than 6 months, and all of a sudden no one's going to be even seeing your house because they're going to see something's wrong with it. This is what happens. This is what happens when
My real estate agent already has 3 people interested.
Interest is nothing. Interested in what?
In the house. Like,
in what way?
In buying it.
What? They've seen it. They toured.
They've seen pictures from the outside. And then from what the real estate agent has told them.
You're getting ahead of yourself. You're getting ahead of yourself. It's that virtual appraisal. It says, trust me, someone who's been in the buy-sell game many a times for houses, those little exciting things, I remember being excited about those as well when I did my first. And then I realized it means nothing. Once until you get an official appraisal, it doesn't even matter. You don't even know what they're gonna. They might be interested in it. They might be interested in buying it at $150. Okay, I might be interested in buying a house across the street. Maybe not at the price they want.
I'm looking at comparable prices because there's multiple houses on my street for sale.
Yeah.
Like if you're on Zillow, I think there's one on like 240.
Don't say that.
Sorry.
I see the 240.
And then there's another one down the street for
240 doesn't. That's not a comps. You know when they do comps on sold homes, not for sale homes.
So there was one that just sold for 220.
Okay.
But
tell me about
they probably have a working HVAC and.
You don't have a working HVAC.
No.
Okay, then
so that's one of the things the inspection didn't call out. They said that it's working. It's not great, but
you didn't get a specific HVAC inspection done?
I didn't know.
Oh, people, go through our real estate class, y'all. Go through our real estate class.
I really wish
I'd done. One of the other ones that's worth $230 is like literally 40% larger than your house. So it's actually 50% larger than your house. So that doesn't, it doesn't fully equate to what we're looking at here. Now, as Texans public record of terms of what the sale price is, we can't see. We have access to the MLS. That's where you can see the official sales price. But I just think you're a little too ahead of yourself. I'm not. Oh my! You guys put in an offer on a home?
So it's a contingent offer.
Contingent on?
Once our house is in contract, then the seller accepts our offer.
Is there a time period?
So the seller of the house that we're looking at has to go back to Arizona.
Is there a time period between that where it imports that? No. Where it's like, if you don't sell your house by then, we're going to tell
the deadline on it.
Really? Have you signed the contract?
No.
Oh. Again, we're ahead of ourselves.
Yes.
This is just an endless, we're ahead of ourselves. Address to the new place.
3 bed, 3 bath, 3 acres? No. No.
Okay. Well, maybe I can't find it.
I'm like, I think
That might not. Is it listed for sale right now?
Yes.
Then I should be able to find it.
Yes, it's in there.
So this one? Yeah, different street. This one's much cuter. I'll be honest. It's listed for $309. God, you can't even afford your fucking current living.
So
You're in $80,000 a bed. You're gonna double your home? What are we doing? Oh, you're full Americanizing. You're full Americanizing. You're upgrading home before you can even afford your own lifestyle. And going out to eat itself is nearly $700. It's like under jumping was $1,300. You guys couldn't afford to move your still, okay? From the previous, and we're looking at doubling our house? No! No! Okay, well, what's the agreed purchase price?
309 even.
Okay, so looks like Zillow's not wrong in this area. Okay, which means they're likely not wrong on yours.
And the only reason why we put in the offer at 309 is because it's a contingent offer. Otherwise, we would have come in probably at 290,
That's an
300.
apocalypse bunker.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about student loans. I know it's something we all want to avoid talking about, but if your private student loans are crushing you, why refi might be exactly what's benefiting them. So if your private loans are burying you, it's time to reach out. Why Refi wants to help you climb out of debt, not push you further in it. Check them out at whyrefi.com/hammer. That is YREFY.com/hammer, or call 888 YREFI-78. That is 888 YREFI-78. Break free from the high interest trap and get your finances under control once and for all. All right. Rural. Interesting life. Okay.
And we've considered using the USDA loan, but the lender wants to do an FHA contingent offer to another FHA.
Well,
So we're on an FHA loan right now,
yeah.
and they want us to put in a contingent offer using another FHA loan, and then using the equity from the sale of our house as a down payment for that house. And then I talked with another lender just to kind of compare things, and they talked about a conforming loan. And when I reached out to my real estate agent to learn a little bit more about it, she said it was an FHA loan, but the credit union I was talking to with that one said that it wasn't FHA and that it was like a Fannie Mae loan. So I got really confused about all of that and just.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's one of the government holders.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a big. My thing is, are you gonna have two? Why not get qualified for a second FHA while you hold the first FHA? Is the issue?
So we are pre-qualified right now.
Again, this is you getting ahead of everything. Pre-qualification
or something like that.
That means almost nothing. The underwriting process is what exposes everything. You can get pre-approved for mortgages like this. It's so easy. Lindsay could literally do it before the end of this next sentence. Like, it is so easy to get pre-approved for a mortgage. It's nothing.
The guy submitted all of our pay stubs, everything, credit reports or credit scores and all that. They ran a full credit report.
Yeah. Well, yes. Again, that's the basic stuff. Everything you're talking about is like the pre before the real thing happens. Okay. I don't know. You might be able to get into it as long as they at least know you're getting your last one, but typically, lenders verify that the first FHA loan has been paid off completely before allowing you to get another one. I don't know, man. I think you're a little ahead of yourself here. And why do you think you're able to double your living costs?
Our goal was to use some of the equity from the house to pay off some of the debt.
So some of the equity that we might not have. Your contingency offer, does the contingency rely on you making money on the last house or just selling the last house? Because you might not actually make equity, especially after you lose 6% on seller-buyer commission, and then you also get any capital gains, by the way, if you do make profits. You haven't lived there for 2 years. Yeah, capital gains, get ready. There's a nom 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 nom. It's going to get you. Did you know that? Were you expecting capital gains?
No.
Oh, it's a big chunk. You haven't been there for 2 years, right?
No, I've only been there a year.
So there's that, and then you're gonna have closing fees and a bunch of different. So honestly, you're probably gonna have to sell. You put 5 down on it. Okay. It was what, 250? What was it?
For my house now?
What was it?
Yeah. 144.
144?
Mm-hmm.
144? Probably gonna have to sell it at 175 to break even.
I feel like that's doable. The only thing
Yeah,
is
but that's break even. There's no equity that you're thrown into something else. So how are you putting money down on this next one?
It was going to be from the equity of the sale of this house.
So you're relying on that.
Because this is what the lender and I have talked about. So this is
you talked about before you've even entered underwriting. This means nothing. This means nothing. You are so pre on everything.
Mm-hmm.
Pre. No. Actually, before you even go do this, go through our real estate course. That's the most recent one we've done. You get it for free. You need to learn a lot about this right now. I'm a little scared that you're getting way too ahead of yourself. And even if you get into this other one and you get the FHA loan, which allows you a little less down, that is still a higher minimum payment. Like,
yeah, that's what I was worried about.
Worried about? No, it's double the house.
Yeah.
How do you think you can possibly afford that if you have $80,000 of bad debt and you can't even afford to live? You spent more than you made last month. Did you know that?
I didn't.
Well, you did. Congratulations, because that's debt, lady. That's the household. By the way, the household of the 3-year-old. Remember that one?
Yeah.
Okay. So, how do you think you can live that life?
My dad has also offered to help with rent because now he doesn't. He helps with like childcare, like he'll help out watch my son if I have a really important meeting I have to do, or he'll pitch in on some groceries or something like that. But I don't ask him for anything because he's on a very set disability amount. And
okay, well that's okay.
And so he just kind of pitches in where he can. But he agreed that if we do move to another house, he would like to pitch in.
I see you said it's $7,500 to replace the HVAC and furnace. Yeah. That's better than double the house.
Yeah.
That's better than double the house. I'd rather you have a $7,500 potentially interest-free loan and a house where you're only putting a couple of percent down could go under value and a minimum payment that we can't afford, which puts us underwater in a situation you might not be able to sell. Because who knows what's going on with interest rates? We're in a weird hold period.
Yeah. Because right now, man, we've had all kinds of crazy quotes all over the place with interest rates.
This makes no sense. I have notes that you track what bills are due each week. You have to track it on your phone.
I do.
Well, it's in your notes app. And you update it once a month. You're in charge of all the variances in the household, and you're very frugal. Then you have all this bulk spending, all these, like, you're spending more than you make. You didn't even know that. We have horrible debt, and you're thinking about getting a house you can't afford. This doesn't make sense. Those things are so conflicting. Yeah. Make that make sense for me, please.
I can't even make sense of it.
How aware is the husband of the finances of the house? I'd love to see in the conversation, because it sounds like you.
I try to sit down with him at least once a month and be like, hey, these are our bills. Let's go over everything. Let's figure this out.
What does try mean?
He pretty much just leaves everything up to me.
Is he informed at least?
Oh, yeah. I update him all the time. Like, hey, the water bill's $114. I just paid that with your check. Or whatever the case may be. Like, I tell him about every time I'm paying a bill.
All right. Where do you think your household financial score is? 0 to 10, 0 being the worst, 10 being the best. Where do you think you stand?
Probably a 1.
Watch your Hammer Financial Score, see where you are in the world of finances. I'd be happy to assess you. Take the assessment at calebhammer.com. Go to calebhammer.com/apply to come be here on the show. And don't forget, if you download my budgeting app, in order to not be a guest on this show, it'll help you a lot. And those who sign up for the annual version, you get my budget-friendly cookbook signed by me and sent directly to your doorstep. What is home inspiration? What is this card?
Ashley Furniture.
So not only could we barely afford to get the house, we put a few percent down, and now we can barely even afford getting a new house, but we don't really got to... Listen, I'm going to be very clear. You want to know how you look at life? You want to know how you look at life? Now, I'm going to let you in on a little secret and a perspective you probably haven't thought of. You put more value into feeling comfortable, in seeing things that you like. Because this that you finance for Ashley Owned Furniture, guess what? It's the cost of the new HVAC and heater. But you chose furniture.
Beds.
Beds.
Kitchen table. Yeah.
You did not need I slept on an air mattress for 9 months when I moved down here.
Me, my son, and my
Wasn't the
husband
best.
slept on a queen size air mattress for a month.
There you go. This heating in Texas, or well, AC in the heat of Texas. We don't fuck with that, especially when someone could die from it. Your dad.
Well, when we first moved in, it was kind of cooler outside, so the HVAC system was running at like it would put out like 72, 70, and then once it started getting hotter, we realized it was not working. Basically, it was circulating air. It wasn't actually cooling.
When does the interest-free period end in this?
I'm not sure.
Okay, you're the one that's tracking the finances of the hospital. You're the one that tracks all the bills. How do you not know?
I don't think there is a period where it ends.
This is a fun one. I get to get you free money, and then I get to get myself free money.
It's a pure win-win for both of us. What do you have to do? Sign up for a SoFi high-yield savings account. And
6 months if paid in full or whatever
Why
the case
did
may be.
you call to ask?
I have, and I called Ashley, and they're like, you need to call Home Inspiration.
Well, yeah, it's not through Ashley.
So then I called Home Inspiration and can't get a direct answer from anybody. They keep transferring me. And so that had me a little suspicious. And then there's also 3 different login websites to pay my bill that are all different links. So it had me very suspicious and cautious. And so that was another reason why I was considering taking out the debt consolidation loan, so I can get rid of that and any...
Well, it's not the consolidation loan, dude. Listen, it takes 6 years to pay off minimum payments only, and we know that these period, most of it was 60 months, which is 5 years. So defer. Do you know if interest is deferring? I mean, usually on these type of cards they do. Listen, you're right. This statement is quite bare. It doesn't show a lot. But the fact is, 6 years to pay it off, but it's 5 years. 5 years payments from when it even started, and this was like a half a year ago, right? Mm-hmm. So you will not pay this off in time before the interest just hits.
Like, I definitely, like...
How many times have you called them? Be real.
Probably like 6. Because we went in there, bought our beds, and then bought a couch that was on sale, and then I called in after that and was like, hey, like, how long of a period do I have on this? Or like, you need to call Home Inspiration. So I called Home Inspiration. They're like, oh, we have to transfer you over to this department. Get transferred to that department. Okay. You have to get transferred over to this department.
Oh, I gotcha. Maybe we'll try in a little bit. Get a credit. Yeah. What's going on?
I despise care credit. Dog bills, dental bills, medical bills. When we first moved here, my son got bit by something, and we had to go to the urgent care and then to the emergency room. And that was...
Dog insurance?
I do.
What's your insurance for the kid?
It's through my work. It's Aetna.
Mm-hmm. That's not bad.
But to go to urgent care, it was like $180 for like a 15-minute visit to be seen the first time.
Sure.
And then the next day they said, oh, you can have like a free follow-up within a certain time. I go in there. They're like, no, you're getting charged because it's a sick appointment. Another $180.
This is at $3,000 practically.
Well, no. And then they're like, you need to go to the emergency room. So then the emergency room bill was $2,000.
That's interesting.
And then I paid some of that on my health savings account card from work.
Was it in that work, that emergency room?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I mean, we just had different insurance via Aetna, I guess. That was not, I mean, my copay...
I didn't realize I have a high deductible one. My deductible for it's like $4,000.
You didn't know?
I didn't. So
you don't sign up for the plan you want to?
So when I was filling everything out, I was talking with my colleague about it and was like, I've never had, like, in California, we were under the poverty level, so we were on Medi-Cal, state insurance. I've never had
any. You were under the poverty level, making $75,000 a year?
That was before my raise. And my husband his job there was just inconsistent. Sometimes he'd get 5 hours a week, sometimes he'd get 40.
What did you guys been doing in life? Like, we're
floundering. That's the easiest way I can say.
And you don't seem like a person that hasn't had opportunity. Like, did you go to college? Are there student loans in here?
My student loans are covered by FAFSA.
So you went to college?
I went to trade school. I have an associate's degree in
veterinary technology. The poverty line. What about the dude?
He didn't graduate high school.
Okay.
So
he getting a GED?
He's
gonna run a business, but he can't run his life.
He has a high school diploma now.
Okay, but it's not about the diploma for running his business. I don't care about that. The fact that just like look where we are, now he's gonna have to manage a business financial, which is much more complicated.
Well, so they're like, the financial part's going to be on you. And I was like, I really don't want to do this.
Not only that, but you probably don't have time.
No.
Because that's kind
I'm
of
a stay-at-home mom, and if I salary, so sometimes I work 8 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night. Sometimes.
Okay. Do we have pet insurance? Because these are pet bills.
I just stopped it because they tried to raise the premium for 2 dogs to $270 a month. And then they're like, well, we can raise your deductible, and they'll make your monthly payments lower.
You go and get a different pet insurance, right?
So they have chronic allergies. So it's considered like if they already have it, predisposed or whatever. So other insurances won't cover that. But with my history of being in veterinary medicine, I've got their allergies pretty under control now and can manage it pretty easy. And when they do have a flare-up, it's about $200 or $300 to get that taken care of.
So this is at $2,679.02 with the $92 minimum payment. Made the minimum last time of $64.76 of interest. How long does this take to pay off? Minimum payments only, without anything else being put on it.
It takes forever.
How long?
Like years, like 3 years.
Okay, added 1 in front of that 3.
Oh, that's disgusting.
Yeah.
But I don't know what to do without the care credit. Like, I want to have that as like a safe
emergency fund, and we get an emergency fund by not spending $500 a month going out to eat or whatever it was, plus more on. We don't get an emergency fund by getting a house that is double the cost. We don't get an emergency fund by holding on to equipment in storage lots back in California. We don't get an emergency fund by continuing to go into more debt and spending more than we make on a monthly basis. But you need an emergency fund. That gets rid of care credit. Because then you just use an emergency fund for emergencies. But we don't do anything necessary to get the emergency fund.
Not currently. I've had an emergency fund and then drained it for emergencies.
I don't give a what you've had in the past. I really don't. I care about what's today. I was a delinquent back in the day.
So what do you do when you have an emergency and your emergency fund's already empty? Care credit.
Yes, but I'm talking about how to get to an emergency. You're not living the life that is necessary to get an emergency fund. You're about to get a house that is double. You're almost about to sign a contract to get a house that is double. With contingency, which, let's see if they even agree to that. What's an emergency fund to you?
I would like to have like 3 to 6 months of like regular bills.
Okay, so David Ramsey did say something similar. I would do 6 months preferably, but why haven't we prioritized that? Because that's what saves us.
So I had
Remember how important that 3-year-old is to you? Yeah, they need an emergency fund.
Yeah. I had one, and then emergencies happened, and I emptied it.
I know, but you haven't done what is necessary to build it back up. When you don't have an emergency fund, that within itself is an emergency, and we cut everything to build it back up.
I have money getting pulled out from my check right now. I have $200 getting pulled out and putting into
$200 is going to take forever. There's so many emergencies that are going to happen before that.
I need to pay
$200 savings, good job. Thrilled. $650 going out to eat.
When I'm working 8 in the morning to 8 at night,
it's okay.
We have to eat.
How much time is Daddy working? Papa, not yours. The one you're married to.
My husband?
Yeah. He's the dad of the child.
Yeah. So he was working overtime 10 hours a day, hour drive there, hour drive
Tell me what he's doing now.
He's working 8 hours a day, hour drive to work, hour drive back.
Cool, he can cook.
He's learning.
Oh, is he going to be a bit tired?
He doesn't want to cook. He's
spaghetti, dude. Dude, when I was growing up and we didn't have money and foreclosure notices were hitting, we had spaghetti and meatballs every other meal. You don't have to know how to cook to put pasta in boiling water for 10 minutes.
We do spaghetti. We have
Well, there you go. Mission success. You figured it out. Sandwiches don't need skills. They are 2 pieces of bread.
We do PB&J dinners quite often.
Well, it
Top
can
ramen
be a little
dinners.
better than that. You have, for what it's worth, the money to have reasonable groceries for reasonable meals. I'm not against that. But it's like, your entire thing is like, I didn't have care credit. I wouldn't know how to live without care credit. Okay, I do. It's an emergency fund. But I really put...
Help us recognize what kind of people we want to become.
Less than 60 minutes away from that strike deadline. Now, just moments ago, the union representing 55,000 postal workers across the country issued a statement. They said if a deal is not reached by midnight Eastern time, they won't be striking, but they will be telling their members that they will be putting an overtime ban in place. Now, that job action would mean that their workers and members would only be limited to working 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week. This is to keep the Postal Service moving and to keep the pressure on Canada Post. Now, yesterday, Canada Post issued a new contract deal to the Postal Union. The Postal Union asked for 2 weeks, a 2-week truce to review the latest terms. Canada Post denied that request. And so the union says if a truce is not met before midnight, then that overtime ban will be put into place. Keeping a close eye on the clock. We'll bring you the latest if it comes. Less than 60 minutes away from that strike deadline. Now, just moments ago, the union representing 55,000 postal workers across the country issued a statement. They said if a deal is not reached by midnight Eastern time, they won't be
But if you think accepting that flatly unconstitutional multi-million-dollar personal gift from the Qataris was audacious, wait until you hear about Trump's dinner plan for tonight. Right now, as I'm speaking to you at this hour, with protesters outside, the most brazen act of corruption by a president in our lifetimes, probably in a century, possibly ever, is going down in Northern Virginia right now. They're not really hiding it so much. You can call it the Met Gala of presidential pay for fun. Yeah. Now, of course, we are used to hearing about fancy gala dinners where politicians rub elbows with their top campaign donors who are donating, often specifically so they can be near those politicians. And unfortunately, that's become part and parcel of our political system, and I think people view it with a jaundiced eye. I understand. This is not that. Really can't stress that enough. This is just totally another level. An entirely different stratosphere of frame. A quote, unforgettable gala dinner with the president at his 800-acre Trump National for a very exclusive group. 220 winners of a contest with President Trump. Hot holders of this crypto coin. Much about it other than I launched it already was very successful. NBC News has learned each dinner guest paid between $55,000 and $37.7 million for the Trump coin. Now, remember, the day before becoming president, Trump, day before inauguration, launched this meme coin, right? It's the Trump coin. And then this whole dinner thing was announced first back in April. It was at www.gettrumpmemes.com. The president's meme coin sought investors who would pour untraceable cash into his crypto wallet. And the top 220 got an invite to tonight's dinner. Black tie optional. For the top 25 Trump meme coin holders, there was an exclusive reception with the president before dinner. All told, in order to get in tonight's gala, the winning guests forked out a total of nearly $400 million, according to NBC News. This was essentially an open advertised competition to see who would pay the biggest literal tribute to Donald Trump's crypto. And because of the way this meme coin works, which is issued by Trump and his purchase always sends money to the company that he's part of, this is really not functionally different than if those guests showed up with satchels of cash or briefcases with stacks of bills and then just dumped all that into a big bucket physically held by the President of the United States.
Your passion for treasure hunting is
The website for the contest says that the president is appearing at the dinner as a guest and not soliciting any funds for it. Another site says that 80% of the Trump Coin project is owned by two companies affiliated or in business with Trump.
Again, as Trump said, I wants the coin, right? These are Trump businesses. Again, now, if these were campaign donations, the level of the donations and the people donating would make this just an absolute facial violation of every campaign finance law ever. But again, it's even worse than that. This is not going towards Donald Trump's political campaigns or, his super PAC. No. This is just money in the president's business empire. And when asked, the White House keeps saying that Donald Trump, the President of the United States, is not attending this dinner, where he's attending this dinner where he will make millions of dollars, not as president, but in his personal capacity.
On the president's dinner tonight, will the White House commit to making a list of the attendees public so people can see who's paying for that kind of access to the president?
Well, as you know, Garrett, this question has been raised with the president. I have also addressed the dinner tonight. The president is attending it in his personal time. It is not a White House dinner. It's not taking place here at the White House.
That's a no, I think, on the list of attendees. You don't really have to understand crypto to see how this works.
Hey, yeah, oh, everybody, yeah.
So you just what? Were you gonna ask? No, you just did a whole other show before this one. Yeah, I did. 3 hours? No, 2 hours. Oh, all right. It wasn't that hard. Oh, okay. Those are the comedian. Those are the easy ones. Oh, all right. It's just basically talking to a friend. Okay, well I'm a friend. You are a friend. Right. Yeah. I remember when I first saw you when you were doing that. Is Occupy Wall Street a thing anymore? Did they give up? They stopped occupying? Yeah, they did. But we just maybe you saw that on my YouTube channel. I know we just reposted the Occupy Wall Street video. I never actually had it on my channel. Oh, really? But because it was originally done by Reason. And this is about 5 years ago or so, 6 years ago. And so Reason TV did it, and so I let them promote it on their site. I didn't copy it, and they got millions and millions of views. And there were some other sites that went with it. It was Ask a One Percenter, right? Wasn't that what you called it? Well, I went down there with a sign. That said, I am the 1%, let's talk.
Sometimes the shrouded path is not meant to be walked. Move forward with blind ambition, and the smoke might suffocate you.
The long version is just under 2 hours, which is on my YouTube channel now. But the only reason we stopped is because we ran out of batteries in the camera. The camera died. But I could have kept talking, and we were losing the light. You can see by the end, it's getting darker.
Just watching them get frustrated with you, but not having the words nor the knowledge to compete with what you were saying was very entertaining. Like, agree with you or disagree with you, it was just hilarious watching someone so completely outmatched, or a group of people so completely outmatched, trying to debate economics with you and trying to understand
Having a favorite animal or vegetable or fruit can help us recognize what kind of people we want to become.
But, the main reason I went there was not so much to try to convince the people there that they were wrong and that, capitalism was, the solution, not the source of their problems, and that they, should be protesting Washington, the Federal Reserve, or Congress. It was for the people that I knew that would watch it on the internet. And I still get emails, even now. At least, I don't think a week goes by where somebody from somewhere in the world doesn't send me an email about that. And I know another website, I forget the name of it, reposted it about a year ago, and they got a couple of million views on it, just posting it again. So a lot of people have watched it, and I get comments from people saying, this is what changed me. I was socialist, very left-wing, I watched this, and that
Move forward with blind ambition,
that was the moment, and
the
then I did
smoke
more
might
research, and I
suffocate you.
learned more, and now, thanks to you, I'm a total libertarian or a free market capitalist. So it served its purpose.
Yeah, well, it was enlightening. It was good. It's good to see people that are so involved in something that they'll go and they'll protest, they'll hang out in the park, but they really can't articulate their feelings or their thoughts in a well-reasoned debate. They really don't have the facts, but yet they're dedicating their entire life to protesting something. It's really interesting that people will spend so much energy and effort on something that they're really not even educated in.
Yeah, and it's a lot easier just to talk about something just emotionally, instead of actually taking the time to learn about economics and to understand, the source of the problems. Because anybody can just blame it on some rich person who's hoarding money and discriminating against them.
They love doing that.
And then just say, the solution. See, if you blame the problems on some rich person. Well, the solution is easy. Just take his money, right? Have the government come in and redistribute the wealth, which is another word for steal. Take money from somebody who earned it and give it to somebody who didn't. But if you actually take a little bit of time and use your head instead of your heart, your feelings, you'll learn that that the source of the problem is government interference in the economy, and that the protest should be directed at government, at their
Having a favorite
regulations
animal,
and their
or
subsidies and
vegetable or
their
fruit, can
taxes
help us
and all the things
recognize
that
what kind of
government does
people
to
we want to
stifle
become.
economic growth and deny opportunities.
I think it would be a really fun documentary if you could do like a documentary on the last occupier, like the last person to occupy Wall Street. Because there had to be like stragglers, right? It eventually must have gotten to the point where there was like 30 people left, 20 people left, and one guy, no, fuck these people, man.
Well, they started occupying different areas, right? Because it caught on, and it was all over the world. They were occupying here and occupying there.
And they were setting up camps, right? They were essentially living there.
Yeah, yeah. And who knows what else they were doing there. But now the Occupy More movement kind of morphed into the Bernie Sanders movement, right? Because that's where all those guys are now. They were volunteering for the Sanders campaign, and socialism is really
Sometimes
kind
the
of gone
shrouded
mainstream
path is
now
not
because
meant
they
to be
put the word
walked.
Democrat
Move forward with blind
as
ambition,
if somehow
and the
that
smoke
changes the
might
meaning, right?
suffocate.
I'm not a socialist. I'm a democratic socialist, meaning I want to vote for socialism as opposed to just have, an armed revolution. But the end is still the same, right? It's still socialism, and it doesn't work.
Yeah, I was watching an interview with Tucker Carlson, some guy who's a professor at Harvard, and he said, I'll give you the last word. And the guy said, socialism's going to win. He made the piece. I'm like, what is that? What does that even mean? Like, socialism is going to win. What does that mean, and what is socialism?
Well, it could win at the polls. That's the problem. It's very intoxicating to people who don't know any better.
Right.
And the interesting thing
Rich
about
people, they have too much money.
The interesting thing
Someone
about
told you the
socialism
masters
is that
of the
no matter
night
how
wind
many
is a
times
tribe of
it fails,
weirdos?
people expect it to succeed. Right? That's the
Who else is
definition
there?
of insanity.
I thought
Right?
I
Doing
was the
something
only
over
one.
and over again and expecting a different result. Well, the socialists always expect a different result from doing something that has never succeeded in the past.
So socialism, by definition, is one thing, but by the emotional reaction that people have is kind of another thing. The emotional reaction is there's rich people that are a real problem. They're hoarding. They're greedy. I'm not concerned with money. I'm concerned with people and community and feelings and health and welfare and education. And all of that money, we should take it from those rich people and we should funnel it into education and community. And they say all these words that make you feel good, like, yeah, we're not about money either.
Yeah, it's all about feeling good. That's what the liberals are about. It's about feeling that they're better than everybody else because they're higher up on this moral pedestal because they don't care about money. They just care about people. And but when you talk about rich people, they don't hoard money. I mean, the way you get rich is not by hoarding. The way you get rich is by trying to figure out what problem people have that you can solve. Right? Whether it's inventing something that makes their lives better or providing a service that makes their lives better, because the customers are in charge, individuals, right? That's what's
Having
going
a
to
favorite animal,
allocate
or
wealth.
vegetable or fruit,
If
can
somebody
help us
is
recognize
better
what
than
kind of
somebody
people we
else
want
at
to become.
satisfying the desires that people have, right? If I can come up with something that you like, that you want to buy, that's cheaper and better than what somebody else has come up with, then you're going to buy from me. And so the person who ends up with the most money is the person who's satisfied the most desires, the most needs in the most efficient way possible. And that's what's benefiting society. I mean, it's great to have charity, and I'm all for private charity, but if you look at the wealthiest men in history, even though they've been incredible philanthropers and they've given away a lot of money, they helped a lot more people amassing their fortunes than gifting away what they made. It was the businesses that they created, the products that they invented, the services that they provided, and the employment, right? That was all a function of their creating their wealth. That's what did a lot more to help society than simply giving away some of the money that they earned.
Have you ever had a debate with a Democratic Socialist?
Well, I mean, most Democrats are socialists. They just don't know it, or they don't want to admit it. And a lot of people don't even understand what socialism is, because you'll have the left will always consider somebody like even Donald Trump. They'll say, "Oh, he's a fascist." They don't even realize that fascism is part of socialism. Socialism is a broad concept that includes things like communism, and fascism. So if you're a communist, you are a socialist. But it doesn't mean that if you're a socialist, you're a communist, because you could be a fascist. You could be for a lot of things. But fascism is a form of
Someone told you the
socialism
masters of the
where
Night
the
Wind is a
government
tribe of
doesn't just
weirdos?
steal all the profit. Right? The
Hmm.
communists want to
Who else is
nationalize
there?
everything
I thought
and
I
take
was the only one.
legal ownership of the means of production. Right? The government just owns all the capital. Under fascism, the government is a little bit smarter. They realize that people will work harder if they think they're working for themselves. So the fascist doesn't want to nationalize business. They just want to control it through regulation and taxes. And that's pretty much what the Democrats want to do. They want to control everything by taxing it heavily and regulating it. And that's an important aspect of fascism. I mean, a lot of people associate fascism with
Sometimes
racism
the
just
shrouded
because
path is not
the
meant to be
Nazis
walked.
were
Move forward with
racist.
blind
But you don't have to
ambition,
be racist.
and the
I mean,
smoke might
fascism
suffocate.
started in Italy, and there wasn't any racism there. And if you go back to the Nazi Party, it's the National Socialist Party of Germany. That's what the Nazis are. It's socialism. So fascism is a form of socialism. That's why the communists and the fascists, argue so much, because they're fighting over the same turf. It's which brand of socialism is better, fascism or communism. But they're not at opposite ends of the political spectrum. They're on the same end.
So do you think that people are frustrated with the current system, and so they see someone like Bernie Sanders come along that offers this
Someone told
radical
you the
change of
masters
pace,
of the
saying,
Night Wind is a tribe of
we need to
weirdos?
end income inequality and
Who else
redistribute
is there?
wealth and all these different
I
things.
thought I was the
And
only one.
it just sparks an emotional reaction in people that they know that the current system, the way it's in place, especially the way it was under Obama, they didn't like how things were. They didn't like how things were under Bush. They think we need someone who's not a career politician or someone who's got a radical new approach. Oh, look at this Bernie Sanders guy. He wants to do some stuff with money. Let's vote for him.
Yeah, look, people are grasping for straws when they're looking for a solution. That's why Trump is president. I mean, a lot of people think that Trump's election maybe shows that the U.S. electorate has moved right, that we're more Republican or more free market. But that's not what that election was about. It was about the fact that we had a lousy economy, and Trump was honest about that to the voters. Trump told people that the numbers are phony. Don't believe these unemployment numbers, 4 or 5%. It's a lie. It's fraud. It's fiction. And he was right, because the way they calculate it today, they don't calculate the millions and millions of people who have given up looking for work, right? They don't count the people who just have a part-time job and they're still looking for a full-time job. So the real unemployment number is much, much higher. And Trump talked about that. And he called out, all the politicians from both sides, right? Not just the Democrats, the Republicans.
Having a favorite
He said,
animal
look, I'm going to
or
clean
vegetable
house.
fruit
I'm
can
not a
help us
politician.
recognize
Vote
what
for
kind
me.
of people
Right?
we
I'm going
want
to
to
make
become.
America great again. I'm going to drain the swamp. And he appealed to people's, their fears about immigrants. I'm going to build this wall, as if the reason that things are bad is because we have too many immigrants taking away the jobs. And so people decided, you know what the hell? Let me give this guy a chance, because things are bad. The media's lying to me. Wall Street's lying to me. And so, Trump won. But unfortunately, now Trump is part of the establishment, and now all of a sudden the fake economic numbers are legit. Now every time there's an unemployment number out, he tweets about how it's the lowest it's ever been. So I think that when we get this next recession, which is going to happen while Trump is president during this first term, which I think will be the only term. But when all of
Really? Why do you think those two things?
well, because I think the economy is going to fall into a severe recession.
What makes you say that?
Well, we're overdue, right? I mean, you don't normally have an expansion that lasts as long as this one. I think we're the second longest in history, and if we go for another year,
Someone
it'll be
told you the masters of the Night Wind is a tribe of weirdos?
2008 is when it started to turn around.
2009.
Who else
The end of,
is
yeah,
there?
kind of the end of
I
2009.
thought I was
9
the
years
only
in
one.
now.
Yeah, exactly.
What is a usual expansion and compression?
I don't know, 5, 6 years. So this one is long, but this one required more government stimulus than any other, recovery. And I don't think we actually recovered. I think the government simply, injected a bunch of cheap money into the economy and exacerbated the real problems, but reflated the bubbles in the stock market and the housing market. But everybody talks about how the economy is doing so great, but it's really not much better than it
Sometimes
was
the shrouded
under
path is not
Obama, if
meant to
it's
be
any better at
walked.
all.
Move
GDP
forward with
growth
blind
for Trump's
ambition, and the
first
smoke
year in
might
office last
suffocate.
year was 2.3%. I mean, nothing great. First quarter was 2%. This quarter might be better than 3, maybe not. But I think it's going to be the second quarter will probably be the best quarter of the year. Maybe we're probably going to go downhill. But last year was, I think, the weakest year of job growth since 2011. So people want to talk about how great everything is, but it's more a function of people are hoping things are going to turn around. There's a lot of optimism now that things are going to get better. But I think that the people who are so optimistic, a lot of them are going to be disappointed because we're going to end up with a weaker economy. The only thing that's really strengthening is inflation. Inflation is going to pick up, so the cost of living is really going to be rising as the economy is falling into recession. So we get stagflation, which is probably the worst possible economic scenario. And I think that the left and even the Fed is going to be able to blame it on Trump because Trump has come in and claimed credit for this great economy that he believes we have, and he's claimed credit for the record in the stock market. But he's basically put his name on a bubble.
Having a favorite animal, or vegetable or fruit, can help us recognize what kind of people we want to become.
He's already said, hey, this was my economy, I created it, and so people are going to be disappointed, and they're going to vote, I think, for another person whose promises change, and unfortunately, that's going to come from the left.
So you think this is going to happen within the next 3 years?
Well, yeah. I mean,
what is the bubble? What do you think is going to cause it to crash? Commercial real estate? Is it credit? What is it?
Well, I mean, commercial real estate is expensive. I mean, it's in the bubble, but that's not going to cause it. I mean, air is going to come out of the bubble. I think we would already be in a pretty severe recession now had it not been for Trump winning. Had Hillary won, I think we would already be there. But I think we got a lot of false optimism as a result of Trump, and we did get the tax cuts. And the tax cuts, just like any kind of artificial drug, you can inject yourself and get a little bit of a phony high. Because remember, the tax cuts were paid for with debt. We didn't shrink government, right? If you make government smaller, that's great. Then you can cut taxes because now government doesn't need as much money, and you can relieve the taxpayer of the burden of paying for it, and that's great. But if you just cut taxes, but you don't cut government spending, and of course what the Trump administration did was even worse. They increased government spending. We increased welfare spending. We increased warfare spending, and so spending is more. But they reduced their tax revenue, so the deficits are just exploding out of control. And those deficits are going to do more damage to the economy than the tax cuts were a benefit, except you get the benefit first, maybe for the first year, and then you start to deal with the pain after that. And so I think that's going to set in, long before the end of Trump's term.
So you think that this is what is causing the economy to be in a really, at least to look like it's in a really healthy state?
Someone told you the Masters of the Night Wind is a tribe of weirdos?
But beneath the surface, again, it's not
there?
improving, just like it wasn't improving under Obama. That's what laid the foundation for Trump's victory, was because Obama and everybody kept talking about how great the recovery was. But the average voter knew that was all a bunch of nonsense because he wasn't living in reality.
So if you were the financial advisor to the president, what would you tell him? How would you, what would you do to try to keep the economy moving in some direction? Is it possible to ward off any kind of a crash right now?
We don't want to keep it moving in the same direction. I mean, it's in the same direction it was going in before Trump came in, and that's towards the edge of a cliff. I mean, so what we need is an about face.
Sometimes the shrouded path is not meant to be walked. Move forward with blind ambition, and the smoke might suffocate.
They're saying, okay, the economy's supposed to be doing well. Black unemployment's the lowest it's ever been. Unemployment is down. All these jobs have been created.
Yeah, well, remember, again, the unemployment rate is mainly down because so many people that are unemployed are no longer counted as part of the statistics. So, that's if you look at the labor force participation rate, near a record low, and certainly for men, it's the lowest it's been in the history of the republic. And look at the workers to population. So fewer and fewer people are actually working, and more of the people who aren't working are not included in the unemployment statistics. So if you backed all those people in, right, able-bodied people who don't have jobs but should be working, then the unemployment rate is much, much higher. So that doesn't really paint a good picture. And then you look at the fact that so many Americans are unqualified. Right? There's a lot of jobs out there that go unfilled because American workers aren't qualified to fill those positions because we take a lot of our kids and we keep them in high school until they're 18, 19 years old, Many of these kids should drop out of high school and learn a trade. I mean, a lot of people, they don't have the aptitude for, academics. There's no point in just being in high school. A lot of times they're glorified daycare centers. But they should be out learning trades. And, of course, we make it harder for employers to train people on the job with occupational licensing laws and minimum wage laws. So we destroy
Someone
a lot
told
of the
you the Masters
opportunities
of the Night
for
Wind is
younger
a
kids
tribe of
to get
weirdos?
skills. And then the ones that we send to college, they
Who
waste
else
their
is
time,
there?
majoring
I
in
thought I
liberal
was the
arts.
only one.
So they spend 4, 5, 6 years in college, learning nothing of any real value in the market. They accumulate a massive amount of debt in the process. And so, we have a labor force that's highly educated in that they've got a bunch of degrees. Maybe they didn't learn anything, but they got a piece of paper. But then what they have is a lot of debt. And so we don't have a lot of people qualified to do a lot of things that need to be done.
So what would you tell the president? If he said, look, leadership, he said about the economy, you obviously do. How do we stop this bubble?
Well, first of all, you can't stop it. You got to let it deflate. But the question is, how does it deflate, and then what do you propose as the solution? See, the problem that Trump already made was when he first got elected, he should not have changed his perspective. He shouldn't have said, hey, everything is great. Right now, he's planning on running his next campaign as Keep America Great. Right? When Trump ran for office, he said America was an economic wasteland, that it was a disaster. He's been president for a little over a year. All of a sudden, it's the greatest economy in the history of the country, which is not even close to being true. But if he's going to try to run for re-election on, I've already made America great, and now we just want to keep it great, that's not going to resonate. So what he should have done from day one is leveled with the American public. Again, this is how bad the problem is, and this is what it's going to take to solve it. Because there's a lot of, pain, short-term pain, that we're going to need to go through in order to come to the other side, in order to get rid of all these problems. Like right now, look at the trade, right? Trump is making a big deal about the trade deficit, and he's launching tariffs. He's going to have this trade war that he's convinced that we can win. And this is very misguided. The trade deficits are not the problem. They are
Speed of light. Hey!
the problem is that we have bad
Sacred
monetary
name,
policy,
fortune
bad
preserver.
fiscal policy, too much regulation. That's why we have a trade deficit, because American industry is not productive enough. We don't save enough. We don't make the right capital investment. That's because interest rates have been kept too low. Our tax code favors debt. And we have a lot of regulations that make American businesses less competitive. And so the result is that we import a lot of products rather than making them ourselves. And it's not because the other countries aren't fair, because they have tariffs. Tariffs are very low around the world. I mean, tariffs are not the problem. And so if Trump is simply going to erect tariffs, all that's going to do is tax the American public, because the American public has to pay the tariffs whenever they buy imported products. So this is not going to turn the economy around. But Trump is he points out that well, at one point in time, America ran on tariffs, which is true. During the 19th century, the government raised money primarily by tariffs, but we didn't have an income tax. And so this is the irony of it. The reason we have an income tax today is because the populist politicians of the day told the American voter, if we can tax the rich with an income tax, then we can get rid of tariffs that the average person is paying. So the average person understood that tariffs cost them money. And the politicians said, let's get rid of these tariffs and let's just tax the rich. And the income tax that was originally proposed really was a tax on the very rich. I mean, even doctors and lawyers didn't pay. I mean, you had to be super rich before you paid the tax. And then it was like, 1% to 4%. So it was a small tax. And it wasn't taken from your paycheck, right? I mean, first of all, if you got a paycheck, you didn't pay the tax. But we didn't have withholding until 1943. That was part of the victory tax to pay for the Second World War. But Americans were told, let's tax the rich, and you won't have to pay tariffs anymore. Well, the minute the government got the nose under the tent, right? All of a sudden now the income tax affects everybody, right? People pay a lot more in income taxes today than they used to pay in tariffs. But now the president wants to bring the tariffs back on top of the income tax. I mean, if Trump wants to repeal the income tax and get rid of it entirely, and then have some tariffs, I'd be be
Having
okay
a favorite
with that.
animal
But you
or
can't do
vegetable or
that
fruit can
unless
help
you
us
dramatically
recognize what
shrink
kind
the
of
size
people
of
we
the
want to become.
which is the most important thing that Trump needs to do, but what he's not doing. He has to make the military smaller, not bigger. I mean, he's talking about a space force. I mean, we can't even afford the Air Force, Navy, Marines that we got now. We don't have enough money for a space force, but we have to cut everything. We got to cut entitlements. Right?
Don't you think we should be the first people to have a space force? What are the Russians coming to the space force?
No one's going to go
out of luck.
What are you going to do with space force? Who are we going to fight in space?
Maybe we fight the Russians in space.
Well, why would we fight them in space? They're down on Earth.
Well, maybe they want to fight in space. It's more novel.
Yeah, I don't think anybody wants to fight, right?
No,
But
they want to be protected, right?
Yeah, I think we got that covered. I think we've got a pretty good-sized military. I don't think anyone's going to mess with us. The problem is our economy.
So when you say let the bubble crash, like what would that entail?
Well, basically, the basic problem with the U.S. economy, and this is because of monetary policy, fiscal policy, is we don't save anything, right? And because we don't save enough, we don't invest enough, we don't produce enough, we don't make enough real things, right? I mean, when Trump wants to say that foreigners are taking advantage of us by running these huge trade surpluses, he's got it backwards. We're taking advantage of them. Like the Chinese are sending us all these products that they worked hard to produce, and they had to use real resources, land, labor, capital, to make these products. And they send them here, and what do we give them? We give them IOUs. We give them a piece of paper, and they buy our treasury bonds. So in the short run, Americans are just putting everything on a credit card, right? We're living a higher standard of living because we can consume what we didn't make. But when you do that, you become poorer. See, America used to be the richest creditor nation in the world, right? The world owed us a lot of money. Today, we're the world's biggest debtor nation. How did we go from being the biggest creditor to the biggest debtor? It was trade deficits. Every year, we keep borrowing money to consume. And what this has done is this has turned a rich nation into a poor nation. But we just don't live like a poor nation yet because we're still borrowing. Yeah, and you can be a rich individual, yet maintain a rich lifestyle on debt. But eventually, the debt's going to catch up with you, and then your lifestyle's going to come crashing down. And this is what's going to happen. But what we should do, instead of having a crisis imposed on us globally, with a crisis in the dollar and a crisis in our bond market, we should do it ourselves. We should set these forces in motion ourselves. What we have to do is shrink government. Right? We have to, cut a lot of government spending, get rid of a lot of government agencies, get capital away, so we can lower taxes. Then we have to allow the market sector to get interest rates higher than they are now. Right? That's going to encourage people to save. If interest rates are high, you put your money in the bank to earn that high rate of interest. When money goes to a bank, it can get loaned out for businesses. Right now, all that money is going to government or it's in corporate bond market where it's not growing the economy, or the money is being used to finance stock buybacks. We need money on Main Street financing capital formation, entrepreneurship, new businesses, new jobs. So we get higher interest rates, we'll get that. And we need people to stop buying things they can't afford. You buy something if you have the money to pay for it. You don't just put it on a credit card. But if credit card interest rates went up, and if credit was contracted so that credit card companies were not giving out as much credit, they're giving out a lot of credit now because the government is misdirecting it. But if we slow down our consumption, we increase our savings and investment, then the economy can actually grow. But if interest rates go up, asset prices have to come down. The stock market has to come down a lot. Real estate prices have to come down a lot. Now that means people are going to lose money. They're not going to be happy about that.
Yeah, this sounds counterintuitive to everything that I've always heard about how to boost up the economy. The idea would be that spending and people buying things is great for the economy. We need more of that.
No, that's putting the cart before the horse. You can't buy something that doesn't exist. Something has to be produced before it can be consumed. So it's the production that drives the economic trade, not consumption. See, right now we're just consuming what the Chinese produce. But the consumption doesn't mean anything unless you produce something first. So you drive an economy by creating supply. It's supply that creates demand. If you just try to create demand without the supply, it's just inflation.
It's weird, too, that we keep hearing things about Chinese telecommunications companies like Huawei.
Someone told you the Masters of the Night Wind is a tribe of weirdos?
Wasn't there? There was something about something in the
Who
paper
else is
today
there?
about Huawei.
I thought I was the only
about,
one.
I think another country saying no to these. I guess Huawei in particular is the third largest cell phone manufacturer in the world, and they they have a close tie with the communist government, and they believe there might be some shenanigans going on with their electronics.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not familiar with that. I mean, I know that there's constant talk about trying to just don't buy certain products or.
Well, Huawei, they were actually the State Department told people to stop buying them.
But like national security threat or something? Or?
Something along the lines of third-party spying. They're concerned. What does it say here? Australia to ban Huawei from 5G rollout amid security concerns.
I think it's.
But U.S. had an issue, and I think the U.S. issue was slightly different. The U.S. was it was the State Department that was saying for security concerns.
Yeah, I don't know, but whenever they talk, look, they're talking about the auto tariffs and they say it's national security, as if somehow my buying a foreign car is somehow jeopardizing.
What is that?
National security? I don't know. I mean, the Canadians have called Trump out on it. So what do you mean? We fought as allies in every single war. How are you saying that you have to put tariffs on Canadian products?
So why is Trump doing this?
Look again, he's going after the symptom. Trade deficits are the consequence of the problem. Most politicians ignore the trade deficits, right? At least Donald Trump is putting them on the spotlight and saying, look, this is a problem. It is a problem, but not for the reason that Trump believes. In the short run, in the here and now, the trade deficits benefit America because the world is subsidizing our standard of living. We're getting to buy things that we otherwise wouldn't be able to have. I mean, without these trade deficits, we wouldn't have all these consumer goods on all these shelves. I mean, people would not be able to buy stuff. Prices would be much higher if we had to make stuff ourselves. By having the Chinese make it, it's a lot cheaper. Plus, it's great for our environment because, we don't have to pollute our own air because the factories are over there. But he's right that it's a problem, but in that it's a reflection of the fact that the economy is inefficient, and that's what needs to be addressed. It's like, we have cancer, but you just can't put Band-Aids on the blemishes or something to cover it up. You got to actually get to the source
Having
of
a
those
favorite
blemishes,
animal, or
which is
vegetable or fruit,
the Federal
can help
Reserve
us
and their
recognize what
bad
kind of
monetary
people we want to
policy
become.
and our government policy, our fiscal policy, our regulatory policy. We need to have that type of change, and then the trade deficit will go away. But if we simply try to put tariffs on, it's just going to make our own problem worse. All that's going to do is make prices higher. It's just going to mean that Americans are going to have to spend more money buying stuff, and it also actually undermines a lot of American businesses that export into countries that are retaliating, and also a lot of U.S. businesses import components, and then they assemble the components here, but now those imported parts are going to be more expensive, and so their net exports are more expensive.
We're happy with the way things are going, except that you said that
With sword comes shadow.
corporations
Don't blink.
and it encourages more jobs, and there's more economic activity. Does that make sense?
Well, look, if we eliminate taxes, yeah, that'd be great. I mean, the lower taxes are, the better it's going to be, but not if you borrow the money to pay for the tax cuts. So the idea is, if the government now has to go into the market and borrow money that it no longer collects in taxes,
Time to say
that's
hello.
going to have an impact on the economy. That's going to further deplete our savings pool. That's going to put real upward pressure on interest rates, and obviously the Fed is trying to counteract that. But what they did with the tax code, though, they dramatically complicated it. I mean, there's a lot more complexity in the code now than there was before. Not like it wasn't complex before. So initially they talked about simplifying it. They didn't do that. They made the code a lot more complex, and they certainly they raised lower taxes for some people, but they raised taxes for other people. Depending on what state you're in, there are a lot of people now that are going to pay higher taxes.
What people do?
Well, people in California, or you got a 13% income tax in California that's no longer deductible on the state federal. So that's it. Well, yeah. Up until this year, you could deduct your state income tax from your federal income tax. So the effective tax rate was maybe 40% less because it was just money you would have sent to Washington. So instead, you sent it to Sacramento. But basically, the state tax rates are almost double now what they were last year. In the way it impacts the payer. So there's a big increase in state taxes for individuals. You didn't know that?
No.
Yeah, you ought to move to Puerto Rico with me.
I know, but you guys don't have any power.
Well, we got power now.
Now,
But,
how many months did it take?
Well, don't you guys have a generator?
Yeah, but you were the only one. You're like Mad Max
no,
out there.
I'm
Do you have
not.
armed guards
No,
standing
no.
outside making sure nobody steals your water?
No, it's not. It's, in fact, we're laughing about it, but, I was on your show a year ago, right? We talked a lot about Puerto Rico.
It was post-Trump, right? Trump had already won.
Trump had won,
Right.
but it was before Maria.
Right.
And so I was on the show, and we were talking about Puerto Rico, and we also talked about cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin and stuff like that. But since then, hundreds and hundreds of crypto guys have moved to Puerto Rico. I mean, some of my neighbors now are these crypto millionaires. They're living I see now on the beach. They weren't there a year ago. They're there now. They call it a Portopia. They all want to come there because there's no capital gains tax. But I gotta kind of credit you because I think a lot of these guys didn't know about it until they heard about it on this podcast. And they said, wait a minute, there's no taxes down there in Puerto Rico, and now they're all there.
And they moved there just in time for the hurricane.
No, they moved after the hurricane. I moved before the hurricane.
It's moving after the hurricane.
Sometimes the shrouded path is not meant to be walked. Move forward with blind ambition, and the smoke might
I
suffocate.
can't even tell. Some of the real estate has actually gone up. Yeah, and like the real estate that was untouched, I mean, my community weathered the storm pretty well, so maybe it made it more desirable.
Really? Why did your community do so well?
Just, I mean, it's even though I'm on the beach, the elevation is very high, so we didn't get any flooding, and I guess the construction is much better there. The houses are built better, so they didn't withstand. Yeah, they didn't withstand the damage, and the community got up and running a lot quicker. So
how long were you without power?
Oh, officially there was probably no power for a couple of months. But I have my condo has power just as a big generator.
Yo, what's up? It's Deku. Yo, Deku. What's good? My Hero Academia.
I ended up buying a house there too right before the hurricane, and I didn't have the generator put in yet. So the house didn't have power for months and months, which just exacerbated. I had some damage to the house, and then the fact that there was no power made it worse because it got very humid in there. But I've since purchased a generator, and I've got it all installed, and so I'm ready for the next hurricane. But there was funny thing before the hurricane, there was a lot of controversy from this podcast from my talk about Puerto Rico because I mentioned
Hell yeah, but One Piece is go.
that I had moved some employees.
I don't watch One Piece.
And they all moved out to Puerto Rico.
I like that time I got reincarnated as a slime. That's a good one.
Because I moved my business there. This was in 2013. I moved my asset management and so these guys moved out. They're single guys, and I mentioned that they were having a good time there.
You should bro its word.
Makes I think
Alright, I'll try it out. I'll try watching One Piece.
And I said that, they have a good time there because the labor force participation rate in Puerto Rico is terrible. I mean, hardly anybody has a job. Maybe a third of the people who should be working. And that's again, the welfare state that's there, and the minimum wage in Puerto Rico is effectively like, it's the medium wage. It's like having a $15, $17 an hour minimum wage here, so it destroys a lot of employment opportunity down in the island. So I mentioned that, if they have a good time down there.
Why there is no one in the stream?
I don't know. I don't really stream on this channel. I stream on my King Blasey channel. This is my channel with only like 200 subs. Normally I stream on my channel with 2,000.
To have a job because women want to date guys with jobs. And this was controversial. You wouldn't think it would be, but all of a sudden, all these big guys down there in Puerto Rico, they'll probably say something again because obviously they want to. But a couple of really big guys
Got it.
were calling me out, saying that I'm insulting Puerto Rican women, like, I'm calling them whores or something because I said that they want to date guys with jobs.
Well, doesn't every woman want to date a guy with a job?
Yes, it's not just Puerto Rican.
Women are running around going, I don't want a guy with a job.
No, exactly. Of course a girl wants a guy that has a job.
You play any Pokemon games?
I've played them all. played them all except the new one. The new one that's coming out, Legends ZA. I haven't played Legends ZA. I've played every Pokemon game in my life. My favorite Pokemon game of all time is probably Pokemon Black and White. But Pokemon Heart Gold, Soul Silver is good. Pokemon Diamond Pearl. Pokemon
Me
Alpha
too.
Ruby and Omega Sapphire. All those ones. I wasn't too big of a fan of Sun and Moon. Sun and Moon were alright.
Jobs is to get girls. Oh yeah. I mean, generally, the more attractive the woman, the better your job's gonna have to be to attract her.
Yeah, there's a
Swift is the swallow.
tend to gravitate towards men with higher social status and higher.
I mean, first of all, if some guy to take you on a date, he doesn't have a job, where's he gonna take you? There you go. I mean, it's not. I didn't think it was a.
I have played everything now replaying the Pokemon Legends Arceus.
Oh, nice. I didn't really like Legends Arceus. Yeah.
Them being upset at you.
Yeah, I mean,
on the podcast and talking about it again, so you're beating it.
no, but I'm correcting it. I mean, I just want to say that it's not just, there's nothing wrong with a woman wanting a guy that has a good job. I mean,
Not only that, it's favorable.
well, yeah, but it's not only just because he can take her on a date. I mean, the woman is dating everybody's a potential husband, and you got to bring something to the table. So you got to, you got to have ambition. You got to be a go-getter. You got to, you just got to be living.
What about Scarlet and Violet?
Everyone is. I mean, you got to.
Yeah, I like Scarlet and Violet. Scarlet and Violet were pretty good. They had frame rate issues, but other than that, Scarlet and Violet were pretty good.
Get a job, right, to get the money. And then when you get the money, you got power to get the women.
What were they saying? What was the protest?
That I was insulting Puerto Rican women.
By saying they want a man with a job.
Yeah, like they're just all gold diggers or something. And I didn't say the guy, it was just, they only wanted money. But look, I mean, having a job is a key thing. I mean, we don't care, the guys don't care as much what the woman does. But women, I mean, that's a big thing.
Almost nothing. They don't care at all. She's hot.
Will you stream Pokemon Legends ZA?
Really care. She's hot and nice. She knows how to read.
If a guy was going to set up a guy.
I don't know. I can't stream off my PS5. I'll have to get a Switch 2. I don't really want to play it on my Switch OLED. I'll probably just get a Switch 2, but I don't know how I'll stream it. So hopefully they build in like a streaming feature on the Switch.
Right? With a friend. The first thing the guy's going to ask is, what does she look like? Right? That's the first question.
Is she nice?
Yeah.
Is she hot?
Right. If a woman is going to tell a girlfriend about a guy, what's the first question?
Probably what he looks like first.
No. What does he do?
First.
I guarantee it's what does he do?
Really?
What does he do for a living?
I think first it's what he looks like. Second is what he
No. I think what he looks like is lower down on. I think it's what does he do for a living? Does he have a nice personality? Does he have a good sense of humor? I think how does he look is a little bit lower down on a woman's totem pole.
Depends on how hot she is.
Well, maybe.
Yeah, it depends on how good she'd do in the marketplace.
Yeah. But I mean, but all this, I mean, it's
What's your fave anime?
Political correctness thing of it, like, or the Me Too, like.
I don't really have a favorite. My top 3 are Kill la Kill, That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, and Sword Art Online.
You can't say something. Anything that you say is going to be spun like this is against women because I'm stating something.
You know, Solo Leveling's pretty good too. Solo Leveling's probably my 4th. I like Solo Leveling, but it's a South Korean anime, not really Japanese, so it doesn't really count.
It's very obvious that so
can't state obvious.
No. I mean, it's all like look at it.
But you can, because I think these outrage peddlers that make these articles and write these blogs, who the fuck is agreeing with them? I just don't buy it. I think
You watch any rom-coms?
No, not really.
You read those things and you think like, wow, there's some validity to this because it's in X publication. So I got to comment on this. They're misrepresenting what I said. They're outrage marches.
Yeah, and everybody wants to act like you can't say something that's offensive to anybody. Like if somebody gets offended, then like this what was this? This one of these contestants. I
I read the story. One of the contestants on the Bachelorette, apparently on his Instagram page, he liked some jokes that kind of maybe off-color, a little bit offensive jokes that somebody on the right had posted on
You
their
should
Instagram
try
page.
Haramia, bro. It's so wholesome.
His whole Instagram page. Like, I mean, it's obviously jokes. They're jokes. Jokes are offensive. That's part of what makes them funny. Almost all the jokes offend somebody. Yes. But now you can't even have a sense of humor. Everything has to be, you can't offend anybody, which you don't have a right not to be offended. That's the whole part of freedom of speech.
All right, I'll give it a try.
That you might be offended by, and you just gotta deal with it. You can't be looking like, I gotta have a law against that, or.
But these offense merchants, these people that get offended, that's their currency. They trade being offended, and then once they think something in any way offensive, they just start writing blogs about it, videos about it. That's their in. Yeah, their in is finding something Peter Schiff said about Puerto Rico. Just saying. Because this is the world we live in. A white guy like you, wealthy guy, you're going to talk about Puerto Rican women, you fucking piece of shit.
Yeah, well, they're white. Most of, they're a little darker skinned than most Caucasians.
You from USA?
No, I'm in Canada.
It's an interesting conversation I just had